Over the past couple of years, OnePlus phones have gotten a little boring for me, and I actually haven't shot a video on a OnePlus device all year. But this new one, their new foldable OnePlus Open, this is something special because it feels like this product is a gem in the whole foldable market right now. Okay, so if you compare like the kind of available devices right now in terms of like the large foldable form factor, we have the classic Galaxy Fold. This is the kind of the original foldable from Samsung. This is the 5th iteration of it. This is a well-known device, but then the new player is the Pixel Fold, also a solid contender. But the OnePlus Open, it's just so much better. Okay, let's start off with the form factor and ergonomics. So this device here, OnePlus Open, this is a thinner device. It's lighter and it just fits in your hand so much better. When it comes to like the front-facing screen, the width of it, this feels like a regular phone. So I've talked about this in previous videos, but it was always strange to me that on the Samsung foldables, they made it super narrow. Now I think the reason why this form factor existed, that narrow form factor, was because it was such a thick device to begin with. And because it was super thick, if you held a super thick device that was also the kind of width of a regular phone, it would just be a terrible experience. So they had to thin it down. But this is what people want, right? If you had a regular form factor of a slab phone, but it just also opened up into like double screen real estate, that would be the best version of a foldable phone, correct? And I think this is the closest we've seen of it, at least in the North American market. Now, this device is marketed with a weight of 239 grams. I think the reason why they even went with that number is simply because last year's iPhone 14 Pro Max had a weight of 240 grams. And I feel like OnePlus's marketing team just wanted to beat that number by one. But because iPhones are titanium this year, a little bit lighter, so that number is no longer relevant. But it is a very light phone. But the reason why they're even able to hit that is because the back of the phone isn't glass. This has reduced the weight of the phone with using this vegan leather material. I don't love this material or finish, but this is how you get to 239 grams. There is another variant of this that's, I think it's called Emerald Dusk. It's like a green color. That is a little bit heavier because it has a glass back. So if you want the lightest version of this phone possible, you have to go with this black Voyager color with the fake leather. It's got this kind of soft touch feel to it. It almost feels like, I mean, it's like pleather, right? If you've ever felt like artificial leather, it's got that soft touch kind of give to it, which some people might like, but it's just not my speed. I just don't like the pebbled kind of look to it. That's all. I want to talk about the hinge because the hinge, that's the thing that defines these products, right? Like every foldable, the thing that really differentiates the product is really the hinge design. And OnePlus's hinge is so on point. Okay, so first, it folds flat, like you would expect any kind of 2023 foldable to do. When you fold it shut, it's a flush fit, which is great, but it also unfolds perfectly flat. So when you have like, I don't know, you would expect that, but I'm bringing this up because the Pixel device, when it's opened up, it's not flat. It's close, but it's not flat. I don't love the experience on that. But this is, for all intents and purposes, a flat screen. But it's also IPX4 water resistant, and apparently they have like small holes in this hinge that make it like possible to drain liquid out if liquid does even get in there, which is pretty crazy. But it's thin, it's lighter weight, it's made with fewer parts. It's just a really solid hinge. Now, the hinge design heavily influences the amount of crease that you see on the inside of the screen, right? And on this device, it's got a very subtle crease. If you turn the screen right off, it's like, it's there, it's noticeable, but it's so much less compared to the competition. So let me just show you real quick. This is the Fold 5, 5th generation device, and we're still, right, look at that crease. And this is the Pixel Fold. This thing's got fairly noticeable crease as well, right? And this is the OnePlus Open. Now, I've said in videos that creases don't really matter, right? In the sense that like if you're bothered by a crease, you probably need to find something more interesting to look at on your phone. And I still stand by that, but it's weird, right? Samsung's been making the 5th generation of this phone, and we're still looking at creases that look largely as visible as the 1st generation phone. Like, come on, man. Fix that, Samsung. Now, one thing I thought was interesting, when I unboxed this for the first time a couple weeks ago, when you pull open the device and you look at that unbent version screen, it looks almost like flat. The crease is so slight that it's almost imperceptible. But the moment you bend it for the first time and you kind of work it in, you break it in, it eventually looks like this with a fairly subtle crease. Now also in the box is a case. It's a two-piece case. So there's a piece that fits on the back and then also a case that fits on the front. And it's normally like a sticker that you'd peel off to make it adhere more securely, but for the purposes of this, I'm just showing you that it's a fairly slim case. And also in the box is their Super VOOC charger, so 80 watts. It juices up fairly fast. They claim 42 minutes for a full charge. I was hitting like 47, 48, but fast, 80 watt charger. It's a good charging system. Split battery, that's how they're able to pull off that speed. Now, I want to talk about performance real quickly. This is a OnePlus phone. Their performance is always good. Fast biometrics for getting into the phone, so both the face unlock and the fingerprint sensor on the side are both quick. And then it's running a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, so the latest chip from Qualcomm, but it's the same chip that's in their regular slab phone, the OnePlus 11. And this device, because it's a foldable, isn't as good at getting that heat off as their slab phone. So when I ran some tests, it's better than the Pixel phone by quite a bit, but quite similar to Samsung's Galaxy Fold 5. Now in terms of battery life, this was slightly disappointing to me, mostly because OnePlus devices over the past couple years have had quite good battery life with my tests, but the OnePlus Open is more average this time around. Now, in terms of the screens, these screens are amazing. The front screen and the inside screen are both LTPO3. They're both 120 Hertz. They're both crazy bright. I would argue that these are the best screens you can get in the entire foldable market right now. They're so good. The other thing I really like is that when you dim it down, you get really nice granular control in the dim settings. So this is like, I don't know, 20% dim, but you can go so dim and all the way down. It's in the dark, it's awesome. Most foldable phones don't have that kind of granular control on the low end, and it gets crazy bright. It's a wicked screen. Shows look good in it, games play well in it, multitasking is great on this screen, and the bezels are just right to me. They're not super thick, and they're also not crazy thin so that you're getting accidental inputs when you're using it. I think they nailed the screen this year. Now the camera system. So there's a fairly large camera hump on the back of this thing. I'd say that the camera system on the OnePlus Open is actually really close to the one on the Fold 5. So the OnePlus Open doesn't have as good of dynamic range, but I'd say it does better in low light than the Fold 5. It's not a flagship camera. If you compare the shots on this compared to any kind of flagship slab phone, the S23 Ultra or an iPhone or even the Pixel 8 Pro, this falls behind. But it's just the nature of foldables, I would assume. The thing is, if I'm being honest, I thought that with a camera hump of this size and the Hasselblad branding, this is the last year that Hasselblad has to kind of showcase what they can do in this partnership, that it wasn't better, but it's still quite good. Now, in terms of the software, this is running Oxygen OS 13, and I want to draw your attention to one main feature. So they have this new multitasking feature called Open Canvas, and it's a tool that allows you to multitask on a large screen like this in a really nice way. So you can have multiple apps open, up to 4, and these are in windows that you can slide around and resize really easily. And what makes it unique is that these windows don't snap to fill up the space. It's like a regular computer desktop in the sense that you can move it wherever you'd like. It's just so much less restrictive than the normal foldable experience. Normally when it comes to multitasking on foldable devices, it's quite restrictive. You have to put your panels in particular places, you have to move them certain ways. It's just not a great experience. This is a lot better. And there's also a recent folder so you can open up any kind of recently accessed documents or pictures and have quick access to them. This device has 16 gigs of RAM. I've always wondered, how on earth can a phone use 16 gigs of RAM? It's always been what games are we playing on those gaming phones with 16 gigs of RAM? But on a device like this, when you have multiple apps running concurrently, 4 of them, and you can move them around and they're still running in the background, 16 gigs of RAM makes sense. So that's pretty cool. Okay, other things I really like about this device. It has an IR blaster. I know it's a small little bonus addition, but it's the ability to control your TV and stuff with just your phone is always a nice treat. And I also like the fact that they included the OnePlus Alert slider. I was convinced, or at least worried, that they would remove this for the foldable because they've done it before. And it's a thin device, right? You have to kind of redesign this switch to be able to fit it on such a thin panel. But they did it, and it's actually a pretty large switch this time around. It's nice. Now, there are a couple misses on this device. First, it doesn't have pen support, so the Pixel devices also don't have it, but the Samsung device has it, and there's no pen support. There's also no kind of screen support like DeX. If you want to plug up an external monitor to it to be able to access this device on a larger screen, you can't do that. There's also no wireless charging, and Maybe it's because they were trying to keep a weight, you know, gotta be less than 240 grams, or maybe because they thought this camera hump was so large that they're like, it doesn't even matter if we put wireless charging on here, it won't work. I don't know, but they don't have it, which I think for some people is a pretty big miss. Not too big a deal for me personally, but I think that the biggest issue I have with this phone is the aesthetics. I gotta say, like, I love the internal. This looks awesome. I love the external, or at least this half of it. But this back, I don't know, man. There's something about it that just does not hit for me. I want to love this phone because everything about this hits for me personally, but the aesthetics of it is something that's just like, why? Why did they do this? Like, if you look at the OnePlus 11, it's got the same kind of circular motif, right? Sure, they want to go it, do it. But at least this had some silver accents on the side to give the design just a little bit more flavor. But this is just, I don't know, man. It's just a little too plain for me. Now, I want to talk about pricing because I think the conversation of this device, it revolves around pricing. So this is priced at $1,700. It's $100 less than the other two products. So it's $100 less than the Fold 5 and $100 less than the Pixel Fold. Now, I think that the market price of the OnePlus phone should be a little bit cheaper. It's an awesome phone with a lot of great features that are even unique to the device, but there are things that are missing that the Galaxy Fold does have. And because the pricing of OnePlus products have always just been a significant amount cheaper than the flagship products like, you know, iPhones and Samsung products, it's strange to me that they've priced it so close to the competitors. Now, the good thing is that at launch, there's a bunch of discount programs going on. They can get like $200 or $300 in gift certificates or $200 for like just any kind of trade-in. So I do think you can bump the price of that phone down at launch. I just hope that the pricing continues to be good over time. Okay, there you have it. The OnePlus Open. Awesome phone. I just wish it looked a little bit better.